What's up, guys? It's Meg Casual. It's been a while, hasn't it? So, you're probably looking at the video and wondering a couple things. Why now? Why are you making this video now? And what do you mean by the title? Well, why am I making it now? Let's start there. I feel a little frustrated because I've heard a term thrown around so many times. All the talk about nostalgia, how games were better, how things were good back then, how classic is better than modern. So much. And the hypocriticalness is just mind-boggling to me. And with all the talk about Classic Plus, I think so many people are focused on what it should be, what it needs to be, what it has to be. People never ask what it shouldn't be. No one asks. No one says, maybe it shouldn't be that, maybe it shouldn't be this, because they're so focused on what they perceive the journey to be, or what they'll go on nostalgia, or why classes were better back then, or little knickknacks here and there. They forget a very important lesson, something, especially if we're talking about what gaming was back in the day. Here's the problem. Classic WoW is a solid game, right? We all know that. And people now play games very differently. That's just true. They talk about the journey, but I don't think people truly understand what that word means or what it is. So I'm going to play a clip from somebody. Oh, by the way, I have tried recording this part a million times. I don't know what's up with my audio. I'm hoping it's listenable. I will have this video linked in the description, by the way. I do encourage you to watch this. So if anyone you're a little older, and I will go into this, and by the way, I will be explaining what I mean by the last part of the video later, but I do assure you that the clip I'm going to play has just as much to do about Classic World of Warcraft and Classic Plus and gaming as a whole, all wrapped into one neat little package. It all comes back to it. Trust me. Anyway, so if you're a little older, especially if you were a 90s kid, you've heard the name Mr. Rogers before. Wonderful child entertainer. In fact, I would still say he's the best child entertainer of his generation, and I would still say he's way better than 90% of the things that are for children. Real talk. Anyway, so I'm going to play this clip. And I want you to try to process this and really think about what he says.
Who's made a difference in your life?
Oh, a lot of people. But a lot of people who have allowed me to have some silence. And I don't think we give that gift very much anymore. I'm very concerned that our society is much more interested in information than wonder, in noise rather than silence. How do we do that? I mean, in our business, yours and mine, how do we encourage reflection? I trust that this book will do some of that, but oh my, this is a noisy world.
Now, Mr. Rogers is certainly one of the best.
Okay, just that clip. What do I mean by that? When I say this is relevant to gaming and to World of Warcraft, all, think about what he said. Silence. Wonder. How can we have it if we're always focused on information? How did we used to play games? And in fact, I'll even go further. This isn't just... You could make an argument this is societal in a lot of ways. And things I'll go into explain what I mean by that. It's not just about the way gaming is, it's also the way entertainment is in any form. Even music, I would argue. There's something we've lost. People are so focused on trying to recapture the journey, they're forgetting something fundamental. Classic WoW can never be a journey. Classic Plus can never be a journey with the way people are perceiving it. And what do I mean by that? Or perhaps a better way to say it, it can't be the journey that people say that they want so bad. But then again, I also think 90% of Classic WoW players are hypocrites. Why do I think that? Well, How many people complain about how it was so much better back in the day, and then what they'll do is they'll min-max? Let me ask you this. How many classic players, when the first add-ons they get is Questy? One of the second ones is normally Atlas Loot, or Weak Ores, or a UI add-on. Because, yeah, classic UI sucks. I said it, and I stick to it. Even like the controversy around TBC. But that's not what this video is about. Noise. Okay, what does he mean by that? Is this noise? Kinda. But even this noise has wonder to it. Why does it have wonder to it? Because you didn't know everything. When we used to buy games, literally buy games, remember this? Remember holding it? Final Fantasy VIII for a PlayStation, right? I can tell you when I held this, okay, it didn't have plastic cover, it's a used copy, but still, you still had the walkthrough, you still had the book. You were reading it while you were on your way home, and even like this one. Just little things that people don't get anymore. The manual image matches with the cartridge. We don't see this stuff anymore. And even this. Gun and Wing, Endless Waltz. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, VHSs. There used to be a mysticism to a lot of this stuff. You knew some things about the game, but with the internet being so new, you still had a form of discovery. You still had a form of wonder, of mysticism, of silence. And what I mean by that is, it lets you think. It lets you think. You don't have a Google search engine where you can find everything out within 5 seconds. You have to use your brain. Would you believe, and I've said this before, I didn't get Quest Helper for classic World of Warcraft. When I see, okay, I don't like saying classic. Vanilla World of Warcraft. Vanilla, 2004. Until level 42. I was in Tannerus. And even then, it didn't always work. I remember sitting in a room with my friends. And I was playing on my friend's computer. And I was like, guys, I'm confused. What do you mean? Well, okay, I have Quest Helper, right? Uh-huh. So it says it's here. But it's not there. I know. I don't get it. Well, what's the quest say? Northeast. Well, northeast from where? I don't know. Wait, isn't it a drop? Yes. I'll tell what the quest is, and you're all gonna laugh. I'm like, oh, okay. What does Thoughtbot say? Well, Thoughtbot says it's over there. What do you mean it's over there? Well, but it says it's over there. No. I talked to a guy last week. It's over there. But I was just over there. It's not there. I'm like, okay. We break it down. We break it down. We go. It's like, well, go to that spot. Is it there? No. Okay. It's over there? No. Where is it? You want to know what quest it was? It was a stupid rooster quest. Yeah, I know, right? And everyone... No, I still hate these quests. Even this very day, I despise these quests. You know why? This is what happens. Everyone gets lost because there was no indication that sponsor... Oh, and let's not forget, heaven forbid it dies, which was a lot, by the way, back in the day. You had to wait, I think it was like 20 minutes for the stupid thing to respond. So a lot of times you just weren't getting that quest done. And the tragedy of that thing is I never found it. We learned what it was later, but I never actually got that quest done, which was annoying. But just as an example, another example would be builds, right? Builds. Classic talent trees. Yes, these are TBC ones, but... And I'll get into why these are up here in a moment. But just for sake of argument, I'm going to click on Paladin because it's a class I know the best overall. You didn't have an understanding. Because something that Classic has that wasn't in Vanilla or in original TBC, the mindset, classes were growing and changing with the patches. This provided that silence, and I'm going to keep using this, and I know it sounds really weird when I put it like that, that silence and wonder. What's going to happen with my class? I don't know. That was part of the expansion. A part of the expansion we don't experience anymore because we're on the final patch, which is fine, I suppose, for Classic, because it's a solved game. Which is why I'm going to say something really, really mean. Modern is more of an MMO than Classic is. I said it, and it's absolutely true. Modern is more of a journey than Classic is. I said it, and it's true. Because here's the problem with Modern. Whether you like War Within, whether you like Dragonflight, no matter how you say it, whether you hate the characters, hate the story, whatever, it still changes. It still changes. It doesn't, you may argue, but it doesn't feel like Classic. You kill stuff in one hit, that doesn't matter. Well, I mean, it kind of does, I suppose, but you're missing the point. An MMO changes. An MMO grows. An MMO, not everyone knows everything on day one, which is another problem with the modern design. But that's a different topic entirely. Kind of. Another problem. Add-ons. And this is where I start to go into what Classic Plus shouldn't have. We should have the talent trees. Like Paladins should have Holy, Protection, and Retribution. That's where that similarities should end. Whatever Classic Plus Holy is, it should not be anything like Holy in Classic TBC or Wrath. It should be different. Whatever these talent trees end up looking like, they should not be somewhat recognizable. Like, we should see differences. We should, maybe hit isn't a stat, which I think would be improvement. But again, I'm not going into what I would prefer. What I am trying to point out is we need to have that experimentation again. We need to have that lostness, that silence, where we use this again. This again. Remember using this to figure stuff out? Remember using that? Where we didn't just go look on Wowhead and oh, I know where I put this. I put it here. I put it here. I put it here. I go here. I go here. I go here. I go here. 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 That shouldn't be the case with Classic Plus. You should have to wonder a little bit. You should have to use your brain a little bit. Experimentation a little bit. Now I know what you're going to say, but Mega, no one likes that. Yeah, you're right. You're completely right, and that's the issue. And I'm also going to point something out with SOD. A lot of people ridicule SOD because it didn't go far enough. Wrong. If you're going to do Classic Plus to really get that vanilla feeling, which, if that's what they want, you can have this. You want this. You want the original map. But you can have Elwyn Forest. You can have Wetlands. All the original quests that you're used to, though, need to be ripped out, or they need to be changed. They need to be removed so there could be new quests. They have to be all new to give that vanilla feel again, to give that feeling of silence, of wonder. And this is kind of where I do kind of disagree with some content creators, where finish the other older storylines. I do think that's admirable, and they could possibly do that, but I would disagree in that, because what needs to happen may be rewriting them. Because a lot of people look at Classic Plus as this add-on. No, that's a bad way to look at it. Because the problem with Classic, it's comfort. It's comfort. There's no silence, no wonder, but it's comfortability. How many freshes do we have to get before that becomes stagnant? Well, we're already there. Despite of what people will say, yeah, sure, okay, anniversary. 65, I mean, SOD at launch had a lot more people than this. And even in the lower phases, it did have more people than this. TBC, and I would also say the only reason why it does have this amount of people is because of TBC. Sure, there's going to be people hyped for it, and quite frankly, okay, fine. How many people is going to end up left with? That's going to depend. Because here's the truth, guys. Like it or not, it gets old really, really quick. So that's why I say Classic Plus shouldn't be an add-on. It should be a reforming. You've got the chance to make this incredible again. When I first walked into Elwyn Forest, or what ended up there, I should say, rather. You never get that feeling of the first time you do it. It's kind of like that saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, whether that be a person, game, movie, or music. You never get that first feeling for the first time, because the first time you do it, it's always new. Like, I remember the first time I watched this, the first time I opened this, the first time I got this, I remember it was Christmas. Jeez, Christmas? I'm pretty sure it was Christmas. And I was at my aunt's house. She had a VCR downstairs, and I was so excited. My cousins were there, and I opened this and went, wow, I got the Power Ranger movie. Just like this. This isn't the original version, because actually my original Final Fantasy VII, funnily enough, the discs were kind of corrupted, but that's not here nor there. I remember holding this in my hand, picking it up, and going, wow, I can't wait to bring this home. And sure, yeah, you could say, well, what about demo discs? Funnily enough, I did not play a demo disc for this one, but I did play a demo disc for this one. So I was so much more hyped in that. But it still let me have that silence, because there was that feeling of wonder, of mystery. You didn't know everything. You played the game, and you got stuck. And you had to use this to figure it out sometimes. And sometimes you didn't figure it out. That's why we played through it. Gaming was different then because it allowed us some silence. Now, how can you have silence when a game is solved before it even comes out? You know what's going to happen in Season 2 Game of Thrones before Season 1 is even done. 9 times out of 10. Like, and we don't help it. I mean, everyone says they want that vanilla feeling back. I don't agree. What I see is what the definition of classic now. I'm going to keep doing the same treadmill over and over and over again. Over and over again. There's no silence, no discovery, nothing new, nothing. Silence. No, there's no mystery. There's no finesse. There's what can you look forward to? Dude, I remember SSC being so fun. So it's nostalgia again? Again? Over and over and over again? You're never forced to grow as a player. And yes, there's a whole difficulty curve thing. That's a different discussion, which I'm not going to go into here. But, again, where's the mystery? The silence? And I know I keep saying that, but it needs to be said. Noise. So much noise. Informational noise, but it's still noise. And, honestly, I didn't think about this until I saw that clip again. Remember when we used to do this? Like, when you would read that, like, you'd read about a game, and you go, wow, that's so cool. And this is kind of where the nostalgia factor comes in. A lot of people look at gaming, oh, it was so much better back in the day. Well, it was in some degree, that's true, but there were some bad points to this, too. Certain games looked really, really cool that you felt safe with, and they just weren't good. And you don't hear about those. Like, 2 big ones for the Super Nintendo, which, hurt my soul. If anyone's a 90s kid, they may or may not have seen this movie. It was called The Rocketeer. Really, really cool movie for the time. Like, come on, you're a 90s kid? You see a guy on a jetpack! A guy in a jetpack? That's so cool! And then you like see the game, you're like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. I'll be flying around a jetpack, shooting bad guys, boom, boom. And it's literally one of the most boring things in the universe. Like, I cannot describe to you the heart crush I felt. What? Jetpack? Boom boom? Shooter? Puncher? Sad. But nothing crushed me worse than 1995. Pretty sure it was 95. Batman Forever. Understand, this was even worse because most Batman games were all good. Like, they were hard a lot of times. Batman for the NES, oh my word. Never beat that son of a gun, by the way. Return of the Joker, still so bloody hard, but it's a good game. And then you have Batman Returns, which was also a good game, and Batman based on the animated series, also a good game. So when Batman Forever was coming out, like, dude, like all these other Batman games, so this has got to be great, especially with those realistic-looking graphics out of Mortal Kombat. Dude, this has got to be awesome. And beat-em-ups in the 90s were amazing. that was a really big thing back then. And then we got Batman Forever, and I sobbed. It was so horrible. And I'm just like, what happened? What happened? You gave us Mortal Kombat and you ruined Batman. One of the best Batman films at the time of the year. And, you know, people will talk about it now because it lives on in infamy, but, or, you know, obviously, if we've ever seen some internet personalities, we'll talk about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but no one talks about the movie games. No one will talk about them, because on the NES and Super NES, a lot of people don't get this, but there was a lot of 5 out of 10 games that are just okay. They're just there. Like a lot of platformers, a lot of beat-em-ups that are just okay. You hear about the Ninja Turtles, you hear about Chrono Trigger, the Final Fantasies, but you never really hear about the okay games, the 5 out of 10 games. Like, there was tons of those that just aren't memorable. Like, so forgettable I can't even remember. At least with Batman Forever, I can remember because it was so horrible. But is that worse than it being forgettable? That's, you could argue either way. But there was so many just games that were just okay. You know, it's not the games you're going to see on magazines. It's not the games you're going to see posted on this. Well, of course not, because it's not mentionable. You hear about the Marios, that you hear about, again, the Zeldas too, but, or even some franchises, you know, like Castlevania, for example. Everyone talks about Castlevania 1, they'll talk about Castlevania 4, Super 4, for the Super Nintendo, and they'll talk about Symphony of the Night, of course. But not many people will talk about 2 and 3 for the NES, and there's a reason for it. 2 was a lot like Zelda 2. Zelda 2 was very experimental, but it just didn't pan out. It felt very odd, very weird, and it just felt more like kind of a knockoff RPG than anything else. It was kind of a cool idea, but it just didn't play out. Simon's Quest was very similar. Like, you went to towns, you talked to people, you got weapons. And 3 was just really, really hard. Which it was a prequel to 1, which was kind of weird, actually, back when I think about that. They had this whole partner system where you could play as different characters, which was cool, but it just didn't really hold up because they never did that again for a good reason. But it was cool for the time. Another one, kind of a niche title. It was a good game, but it was really hard. Kickmaster. Yes, it was literally called that, Kickmaster. It was a whole thing, like, I think the thing that impresses me most with that game is the fact that with only having 2 buttons, they were able to come up with so many different combos. Like, I can't even describe to you. Like, you would think with 2 buttons, that, like, okay, you got like maybe 4 or 5. No! Like, we're talking 7 or 8 at least. And I'm just like, they were able to do that on the NES, but I look at Batman Forever and go, different company, different time period, but somehow they messed that up that bad. Go figure. But I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of a peek around the curtain. Gaming's always had bad games. It's not like, the difference is they get forgotten about on the older consoles because, well, people didn't play them a lot. Because once you heard about a bad game, like another unique one, the first iteration of a skateboarding game, Skate or Die, there just wasn't anything there. Like, there wasn't anything there at all. It was interesting. Throat gets dry. To see somebody skateboarding for the first time, that was kind of cool, but really, there just wasn't enough there to justify a game. Now, I'm sure some people remember it, but my point is, it's not a game you hear about very often, especially someone coming in. You know, you just don't hear about it. Heck, even some franchises. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, no one liked that game. Everyone hated it. Number 2 is rumored. Well, yeah, 2 is based off the arcade. Number 1 isn't exactly remembered very fondly for a very good reason. Now, I know I seem I'm going off topic a little bit, but not really, because they all play into each other. What Classic Plus shouldn't be is solved. We don't need another iteration or recopy of original Azeroth again. We need these two continents, well, this one and this one, to be reimagined. We need Warcraft Reforged. Yes, an actual good Reforged. Like, we need that. What should the level cap be? I'm not going into that. Like, because that's not what this video is about. It's about the fundamental concept of the actual journey. And another thing I'm going to say, it should not have add-ons. Everything you have in the game should be built in. Now, I know what some people are going to say, well, but if I don't want to use Quest Helper, I just don't have to. You don't have to use it anyway. Okay, if you don't want to use it, then don't track your quest. Right? Like, what? 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 You can still read the quest. That's fine. Then don't track them. It's that simple. Just don't click on it. Huh? But let's be real, 90% of them will. And this is the problem. Because for a lot of Classic players, it's not the idea that I don't necessarily want to do it. I hate the idea that someone else gets to do something I don't want to do. I feel inferior to them because I don't want to use a tool that they have access to. When everyone has access to it, it's just there. But then they go back and say, well, why is it so hard to download an add-on? It isn't. But it's too much of a pain in the butt. Because what happens with this? The same thing with weak ores. We're seeing that in Modern right now. They're trying to do a lot of that. Thank heaven, that's what I say. Just became an arms race. Well, duh. What do you think was going to happen? And even like when I hear people say, this is impossible without weak auras. Bro, it is not. People did do those raids without weak auras. They didn't have weak auras until Kata. Sure, it was a lot harder and different. Sure. But, again, I would make an argument, if everyone says a lot of these mechanics or the raids are too easy, they are easy. I'm not going to defend they aren't. But would they be easy or just as easy without add-ons? You can make it harder. You're just choosing not to. Like a Disc Priest without Decurse versus with. There's a big difference there. A very big difference there. Like, and people are doing that, so obviously, my point is, it's the same thing with class balance, because I've seen the both arguments. It's fundamental. Not every class had this. Not every class had that. Yes and no. Let's be real. Even with the PvP argument, I don't think that's as big of a deal as people make it out to be. I really don't. Because, let's be real here. The justification that one of these specs is really good at PvP and bad at PvE doesn't hold up anymore. No one wants that. Because, like it or not, World of Warcraft is a PvE game mostly. Most people play it for PvE. There's very few people that play it just for PvP. For a very good reason. And one of Classic's biggest weaknesses, well, okay, you get the rank 14 grind done. Well, what do you do with that? Oh, well, you're going to take it into raiding. Willie said this, actually. It's a very good quote. All roads lead to raiding. And it's true. It's absolutely true. Does Classic WoW PvP take skill? No, it's just about items. Which is one of the reasons I've never been a fan of it. It doesn't, like, there's no skill expression in it. And you can make the argument, like, well, yeah, but look at modern PvP. Well, yeah. It's, over all the iterations, all the changes Blizzard have made, I mean, it kind of feels like just the player base has finally gotten to that point where they're being honest. Like, they have PvP stuff there. I don't think they've given up on it necessarily, but they realize the player base doesn't want to do it. The same thing with the whole war mode discussion, which I don't really want to get into, but what I'll say is this. I honestly don't get why people like playing on a PvP server. I don't get it. Because every single time I see, it's just higher people ganking lobies a good portion of the time. That's all I see. I mean, sure, you could say, well, it's Nax patch. That doesn't change that being cringe, but sure. But the point I'm trying to make with this video, I hear everyone talk so much about the journey, so much about how things were better back in the day. If they really want that, that's what Classic Plus should be, because that's what Blizzard has an opportunity to do. But if to do that, to do what supposedly everybody wants, you have to break the mold. You have to surprise people again. Now, what everyone's going to say, but it's just going to get solved in a week or two. Maybe, but I would still rather have that, and classes will change, by the way, in Classic Plus. I would rather have that than still just stick to this. No innovation. Like no innovation whatsoever. I would rather see a fresh shaman, a fresh paladin, a fresh rogue, a fresh warrior, a fresh itemization in Classic Plus instead of doing the same old song and dance over and over and over and over. It's a box. It's a box that people have convinced themselves that that's the way people played back in 2004, and it's just not. It's not. It's just true. It's the same thing I'll say when people get really mad when Blizzard adds the WoW token and go, oh my gravy, this ruins the game. Yeah, when people are still buying gold on G2G or whatever gold seller site. That's, like it or not, that's the WoW player base, especially a classic WoW player base. Just fundamentally, that's how it works. Anyway, I know this video has been a little bit ranty, but I want to close this by just trying to say this. Classic Plus should not be stagnant. It should be innovative. It should not have the same thing we're used to. I don't care if you're a 20-year vet or a new player, you should still see it from fresh eyes. Saw did an okay job, but it didn't go far enough. You have a solid foundation. Go with the solid foundation and do a clean slate. Because if it's not that, I'll be honest, I don't think people are going to like it as much as people think. I mean, sure, that comes down to, well, who is Classic Plus for? I guess it depends on who Blizzard decides it's for, but I'll say this. They don't need to do it for the Classic Andy, because they're not going to like it anyway. Like, I mean, there's a reason why SOD was so popular. Like, you know, season of Discovery. Could it have been better? Yeah. And honestly, Blizzard's worst mistake was trying to cater it towards the more classic Andys, I think. Because those were all the worst parts of SOD. You don't believe me? Why did everybody hate the fire resistance gear in MC? And also think about this. How many fundamental problems would have been solved in SOD if you had had BOA reputations? Just think about that. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. This is Mint Casual. Sign out. Oh, really quick. And Merry Christmas, everyone.